Let's talk about Emeka Ojukwu, the Biafran warlord. Some have called him the general of the People's Army. Stories have been told about the war, and more stories about the war are coming. There is a story about Ojukwu in exile, diplomacy and survival. There is a new book entitled Ojukwu. This is the book. It's a new book. And this book fills a gap. What gap? Ojukwu in exile, diplomacy and survival. It's a book written by Kanayo Esinulo. Mr. Esinulo, it's good to have you on State Affairs.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure, Ed.
You have written a book.
Yes.
What inspired you to go on this journey?
Interestingly, the motivation to write this book came from outside. Because when Emeka came back to Nigeria, they had anticipated that Emeka would give them a book. He gave us a book, no doubt, but it wasn't the book. So the pressure was mounted on me to tell us how he survived 12 years in murky exile. 12 years. January 11, 1970 to June 1982. It wasn't easy. How did he live? What was he doing? What jobs did he create, if any? And I decided, Ed, that gap needed to be filled. And that's what exactly this book represents.
At what point did you meet Ojukwu during the war?
We met intimately at Omaya. Then we relocated to where we call Madonna 1. And we joined again Yamoussoukro.
Can I call you one of the personal assistants of Ojukwu?
Yes, I am. I have an appointment letter that shows that I'm a senior aide, in bracket media.
Can you remember that day in 1970 when Ojukwu left the country?
Yes, I can.
What was it like?
Rowdy. A little rowdy. Rowdy in the sense that we did not expect the collapse of 12 Div. Don't forget, Aid, that things were beginning to look up for Biafra. The arms were beginning to come in. So the collapse of 12 Div was sudden and unexpected. So when the news came that 12 Div area had totally collapsed, cutting off S Brigade that was around Azumini, so there was problem.
So at this point, there was no hope for Biafra.
We had been decimated. Those who were the 3rd Marine Commando heading to Owerri, some were heading to Olaku, around today's Imo Airport. Some were heading to Aba. And Maduebe couldn't really put it together. He was the chief of army staff. So Emeka was advised to leave and he left from Ogwa.
Who advised him to leave?
Salui.
Mbanefo?
And Co. Yes. Philip.
Did he resist?
No, I don't think he resisted. I wasn't too old or matured to know what was happening inside that hall, but I know he agreed to leave.
Philip was among those that convinced him to leave.
Yes. And Philip was to take the mantle of leadership and did the formal.
So immediately Ojukwu left. That was the end of the war.
More or less, yes. There was no more resistance. War is about resistance. There was no more resistance. Pamphlet, so there was no more resistance.
So he left knowing that Philip Effiong was going to hand the instrument of surrender to Nigeria.
That was obvious. That was obvious because the resistance had been broken. There was no more coordinated resistance. And despite Colonel Joa Chuzie's attempts, there was no way. So he had to go into exile.
Some said he ran away.
No, he didn't run away. Emeka didn't run away. To run away means there is an obvious danger, yes. But it was organized. He had to leave. He had to leave.
How did he leave? From which airport?
Some said Uli. Some said Oga. But I think he used Oga. I think so.
Why didn't he leave through Uli Airport?
Uli Airport was under bombardment by Egyptian piloted Russian MiGs. Remember that we are not fighting Nigeria alone. That's what people don't know. We're fighting almost the entirety of Arab world. Emeka likes to call them Pan-Arabism.
You know, if you read the Ahiyara declaration,
yes,
he said the Biafran struggle was against Pan-Arabism.
It's Pan-Arabism. He knew. And Uli was under serious bombardment. So why should we, when we have other airports, we had one at Okigwe side, where the Red Cross staff who came to share relief to our people were killed by Gowon's airstrikes.
Mr. Esinulo, you said weapons were already coming in.
Yes.
Before Second Div collapsed.
Yes.
What were the weapons coming from?
I wouldn't know. I'm so below to know, but there was serious improvement in our armament supply.
I am thinking that you should know by now.
Yes, in Exile he mentioned Argentina, for instance.
Argentina.
But that's what I can tell you one-on-one.
Because going through your book,
yes,
I've been waiting to meet you.
Yes.
I've been trying to put a face to the author. Because I saw all the intelligent activities that went on in Exile.
Yes.
I saw all the secret mission you embarked on in Exile.
Yes.
And you did not tell us a full story here.
Yes.
You decided to omit many things out.
Yes.
Why?
I convinced myself before I started putting pen to paper that there were certain things that I would not say. They will go down with me 6 feet. And that was why there is a chapter called Some Things Cannot Be Said, chapter 2. Some things cannot be said. They will go down with me 6 feet below.
Would that be fair to the generation that is coming?
It will be. I'm trying to protect the confidence reposed in me. There were attempts on his life.
By who?
By certain elements.
Because even though he was in Exile,
yes,
he had an office.
He had an office
that organized his life.
Yes.
He has that huge intelligence network.
Yes, working for him.
Working for him.
In his favor.
Who was after him? Who wanted him dead?
Somebody wanted to kill him.
Who?
That's what I said will go down with me in 6 feet below. But there was an attempt on his life.
From Nigeria?
Not from Nigeria.
From Britain?
Not from Britain. But it could have been instigated by any of these. But the person who pulled the trigger, I missed him.
They even put the trigger?
Oh, yes. You can trust them. I can Saturday morning.
So he became more security conscious?
Oh, yes. Before Boya had to reinforce defense.
Okay. The war was already lost.
Yes.
He left Nigeria, he left Biafra.
Yes.
In 1970.
Yes.
To Côte d'Ivoire.
Yes.
He became a guest to the president of Côte d'Ivoire.
He was a special guest, yes.
And he went to the president's lodge in Yamoussoukro.
His country home.
Why
is a villa.
Why did Hufwe Boigny love Ojukwu so much?
I think that question could be put differently. When he calls him Monfils, my son, called him Monfils. He called him Mon General, my general. I think the love was clearly traceable to Sir Philip Ojukwu, who had some minor little businesses in Ivory Coast at that time.
Philip Ojukwu,
Philip,
Ojukwu's
his father,
daddy.
yes. So the love between son and father was so pronounced and deep that you begin to ask, is he not just an exile? There are many exiles here. But that affinity, that closeness was profound and visible.
So I'm wondering, why didn't Ojukwu go to Tanzania, Zambia?
Why didn't he go to Switzerland that even offered him? Why didn't he go to Switzerland?
So what informed the decision to go to Ivory Coast?
What aid just provoked about Hufo Boigny regarding the giving special attention and love to the young man. He was only 30-something.
At that age, was there youthful exuberance in Ojukwu?
No, he had matured over time. He had matured with the war. He had matured by the circumstance that enthroned him to that position. But when you have people like Salu Mbanefu, when you have people like Professor Kenneth Dike, Chinua Achebe surrounding you, you can't afford to be immature. If you take an immature decision, they will correct you. He was surrounded by our big names.
Igbo intelligentsia.
Oh, Igbo intelligentsia aid. You can say that 10 times. He was surrounded.
And he listened.
Oh, yes. Otherwise, the war couldn't have lasted for... These people would say the war will last for 3 months or 3 weeks. I said for 3 years. And don't forget that 18th Battalion, led by Nsudo. Nsudo is still alive from Akwa Ibom, still in Uyo. 18th Battalion was not told to enter Ore and Ukitipopa. They were told to head to Lagos.
Who told them to head to Lagos?
I think the Israelis knew what was happening.
The Israelis?
Yes. They knew what was happening.
They were thinking for Biafra?
They were involved on our side. We were there hiding it.
So it was not Victor Banjo's decision to head?
It was his decision to halt. Emeka was fond of singing that like a song. To halt at Ore. He told us, that one I cannot hide from you.
That?
He told us that when he managed to get Victor Banjo on phone, a radio phone, What are you doing at Ore, Victor? He said he was organizing troops. Say, Victor, you are of Nai. Nigerian Army engineers, you are not a combatant soldier. I'm a combatant soldier. You want to reorganize troops that have not fought a battle. It was a straight journey.
They were supposed to head to Lagos.
Yes.
To capture the Danbara.
Yes. That was the instruction. He decided to stop at Ore. And when Emeka said they managed to get him on phone, he said, "What are you doing at Ore?" Say he's reorganizing troops. Said, "No, Victor. Reorganizing troops that have not fought a battle? I'm combatant. You are an engineer. If we need bridges to be pulled up or pulled down, we call you."
So why did he send the engineer to lead that battle?
Because of his belief that we needed the Yoruba to understand that their own son was leading didn't call it battle, he called it an expeditionary force.
To capture Lagos.
That was it.
So, at some point, Victor Banjo returned to Biafra.
Yes.
So what was his offense?
He was arrested.
Why? Why was he arrested?
He disobeyed army command, military command. In the army, they don't condone, they don't accommodate, they don't tolerate dissent. And the man who arrested him was the usual man, the man who does that kind of job well. Colonel Joe Achuzia. Achuzia arrested him.
Arrested Ifajuna too?
Yes, he arrested all of them.
Did the Biafran leadership see that as subversion?
Of course. Of course.
And that was the
The
penalty?
war could have ended September.
Why are you sure?
It could have ended September if Banjo did not do what he did.
So the intention was to take over Lagos, not to keep
The
Biafra?
war could have ended because the northern federal permanent secretaries were already beginning to evacuate to Kaduna and Kano.
So if you took over Lagos, what would have happened to Biafra?
I think Emeka's strategy then was to give Midwest to Midwesterners, give the West to Westerners. That will also, because don't forget that the crux of the anger in the East, the crux of the anger in the Eastern political leadership, the crux of the anger in Biafra was against the North. So at that point.
But he did not consult Awolowo in that regard.
I think he tried to establish contact with him.
But do not forget, at that time,
Northern
Northern troops were occupying Yoruba land.
Yes.
I hope you remember.
Yes.
Don't you think Victor Banjo was saying, no, this strategy is wrong. Ojukwu might want to capture my people and enslave them.
I don't think so. I tried as much as possible, like you saw in the book, to avoid this kind of discussion because it's purely military. I talked about exile. I was more interested in exile. That's what the book represents.
I know the book is about exile.
Yes.
But I have the opportunity to discuss with Ojukwu's personal assistant that have written a book with a chapter, so many things are left unsaid. I will try to extract as much as I can. But let's come back to the exile. Ojukwu landed in Côte d'Ivoire. How was he able to adjust? How was he able to survive for the first 3 months?
The government of Felix, Dr. Felix Houphouët-Boigny, did everything humanly possible for Emeka to settle down, reorganize his life, and face realities, the reality of the Biafran collapse and the hostility of the Nigerian government at the time. So he adjusted quite frankly, I must tell you, very fast. And who fought Boanye played a critical role. I remember he told us, we didn't accompany him, he told us that who fought called him one day into the office, 5 months into his exile, and told him that, what would you want to do? What type of business are you looking at? Are you going back to school? Are you? Emeka said, I'm from a family of transporters. Ojukwu transport. You can't talk of Nigerian economy without talking about Ojukwu transport. So I would like to start with transportation. He gave him money to buy tipper. He started with tippers, yes.
He gave him money?
Yes.
But I thought Ojukwu's father was a billionaire. Was Ojukwu broke?
He wasn't broke, but he had no access to the money at that particular time. Huford gave him money, told us. Huford gave him money, with which he started with moving sand from the riverside to construction sites. This type of tipper that carries sand, go to the site, the driver will press something and it will offload by itself and it goes back. That's how he started, with 12 trucks.
He became a businessman.
By 2 years, the 12 trucks had multiplied aid, I can tell you, to 100. And the man, the Wufo Boye, was shocked.
He was such a good businessman?
Oh, yes. If you gave me 12 vehicles to start a transportation business, and in less than 2 years, you can count, you don't even need to ask me, the staff there, the drivers, everybody, they were all Ivorians, 100 and something, and counting.
How was he able to do it?
Because he had the presence of mind, the experience from his father's company, and government support. Because most of the constructions were government, it was supplying sand to sites.
A typical Igbo man.
A typical 24/7 Igbo man, walking like mad.
So
then,
he was not relaxing in exile.
And Emeka was fond of employing the best, like his father. When you have somebody like Colonel Pierre Baranger, a retired French army officer with a lot of administrative experience and exposure, what do you expect? Baranger was in charge of security, administration, and the businesses.
His family went with him on exile?
Yes, his wife was there, Njide. Njide was there.
Yeah, I saw the picture in your book.
Yes, Njide was there. The mother was there. But the mother was not living with us in Yamoussoukro. The mother was in Bouaké, which is their second city.
Why was it so?
She chose where she would do her business. She's into restauranting, food.
What about the children? How did he cope with his children?
Oh, he did so well. Frederick Forsyth played a critical role. They were school in Ireland. Emeka was in Ireland. Okibo was in Ireland. Mimi was in Ireland. He sent them to that place. He didn't want the patronage of this fatherly, make sure that they were brought up under very strict discipline, Catholic discipline.
And he was able to take good care of them?
Oh, yes. Every holidays, he's physically at the airport to welcome them. Every holidays, he's physically at the airport to send them back to Ireland. He's such a good father.
Was he worried about the Igbo nation in exile?
He was. aide he was. Not only the Igbo nation, he was worried about Eastern Nigeria. We were in contact with Umomedimo. We were in contact with so many of them in today's Akwa Ibom. We were in contact with Okoko and them. He was in contact with so many of our people.
That name Okokundem, tell me about him a bit. I heard he was a good propagandist.
He was broadcasting what he got on his desk. Some people wrote it.
He was such a popular voice during the war.
He was. Intimidated these people to stupor. His delivery, it wasn't right in those days. Chinua, was there.
They would put it on his table, and he would deliver.
Chinua. May soul rest in peace.
Achebe
himself.
He was instrumental in that war.
He was instrumental in that direction. He was instrumental in fighting for recognition of Biafra. So, hey, come on. We were to get 3 recognitions in January. All the countries have told us is hold the ground up to January 15. We'll recognize you.
And you got the recognition?
No. Ghana, Senegal, Sierra Leone. Have you read Eddie Rose's book? 48 Guns for the General.
I've not read that.
Oh my God. You see my name, he acknowledged it. I gave him the material. Eddie is alive today, he's in UK. We were to get 3 West African recognitions by January 1970, but he needed to cross January 15.
You couldn't cross it. You couldn't cross
Siaka
it.
Stephen
Of Sierra Leone.
Afrefa in Ghana said a saying, the 3 had promised, had committed their countries.
You got Zambia.
After the war, I can reveal to you that it makes one cry. The first person who sent relief to Odumegwu Ojukwu after the war sent his envoy to bring him cash we could to eat was Kenneth Kaunda
of Zambia.
Oh yes. Tanzanian man was more sympathetic, but Tanzania doesn't have this.
That's Walimu Nyerere.
Julius.
He wrote a letter to Ojukwu.
It was a very longish letter. I don't know why I didn't make photocopy of that letter. It could have been in this book.
But if you
I read it.
You read the letter?
Yes.
What was in the letter?
The letter spoke of he praised him. He praised the heroism of our people. Kind of, una don't try. You have made a point. It is now left for us diplomatically to tell these people to stop the genocide.
Genocide?
Yes. It was more than 11-page letter.
So where is that letter today?
I don't know.
Where did Ojukwu keep the letter?
I don't know. I read it.
How do we find that letter?
He should have kept it somewhere.
Where are those documents?
Julius wrote 11 or 12 page this thing. All call it condolence letter. What has happened. Take it like that.
Let's move on.
Let's move on, aide.
Kenneth Kaunda also wrote a letter.
He wrote a letter, but it was 1.5 page. I had a photocopy of that, but I think I lost it in Accra when I was packing to a new hotel. It was either 1.5 or 2 page letter, but he accompanied it with this. Not Zambian money, because in that letter he made it clear that it's not money from our treasuries.
Even if you had the letter, you wrote in this book that you wouldn't have published it.
No, I couldn't have.
Because he had harsh words for the Nigerian authorities.
Yes.
Tanzania recognized Nigeria.
It did. Zambia.
Yes. Gabon.
Yes.
And Côte d'Ivoire.
Yes.
Azikiwe played a huge role, right?
He did.
But today, some young persons in Igbo land tend to write Azikiwe off.
Yes. I think the anger is clearly traceable. It's clearly traceable to the way he exited the Biafran struggle. You don't keep young boys 19 years, 22 years in the trenches and they're announcing to us that you have gone to Liberia to consult top man to beg Yakubu go on. It wasn't proper. There were also those who disagreed with Emeka's policies. Wechwe, for instance, from Ogwash, I think is a relation of Ngozi Okonjo. They disagreed. At a point, he was Biafran ambassador to France, Biafran representative in France. But he didn't just quit. If he gave Emeka advice and he's not taking it, it's not for you to call a press conference and say, I'm going to Liberia to meet top man. After meeting top man, I will go to Lagos and meet Yakubu Gowon.
Perhaps Zik saw that Biafra was not going to stand the Nigerian firepower at the time.
Yes, that may have been his conclusion or his assumption. But I don't think he got it all right. That's the anger we have for him today. And if you look at my book, there was no time Emeka sent me to MPP person. No.
You didn't even mention Azikiwe in
your
book. Because I was looking for Azikiwe in your book. I didn't see Azikiwe.
No, Emeka would not send you to an Azikiwe protege or his Jinwobodo was his man in Enugu. No,
he was disappointed in Zik.
We were all disappointed in Zik. That's the truth. Any other thing somebody else is telling you, Ed, is being diplomatic. We were disappointed. And throughout our exile, I don't know when Emeka sent me or a marker or Emeka in Nigeria to a Zik associate, I don't know. He sent me to, he's in the book, to Tunji Braithwaite, for instance. He sent me to Awo. He sent me to a lot of people. Dr. Akan Ebiam at Onwana in Afibo is in the book.
He didn't send you to Zik?
Never. It never did. Even in our consideration, after the formation of PDF, which was our negotiating ground.
The Popular Democratic Front.
Yes. That was what he formed in exile and said, if aid wants us to support him, he's going to negotiate with PDF as a body. He never sent us to Zik.
So even on returning to Nigeria, he was never going to join Zik's party?
No. I can tell you that. Even though I had kind of withdrawn, I started building a family, I had a wife, I had a son, and I told him this was properly ironed out in exile. Onyisi, as soon as he landed, I would like to face my NTA job. What was the salary at NTA? After PDF, MPF, Nigerian Provident Fund, and NUJ, Nigerian Union of Journalists Deduction, I was going with my wife used to call me 555. 555, that was my salary. And we're paying for a 3-bedroom flat at Ikeja, maintaining a small Renault car. And
you amaze me.
you do too, Ed.
The way Ojukwu was sending you about, the way you were junketing from Accra to Côte d'Ivoire, sometimes you move into Togo to Nigeria. You were on a mission.
Yes.
What gave you the guts?
The courage came from the nature of our struggle. I lost 2 uncles in Kano. That was why throughout the war, it looked like my father had 3 wives. My father had only my mother. The other 2 uncles who sent their wives back to the east when the pogrom started, lost their husbands. That was why when I came back to Nigeria and they insisted that I would have to do youth service. And there was, not rumor, gossip. There's vacancy in Meduguri, there's vacancy in Kano. I told them I'm not going to any part of the north. I was very, very clean and clear about it. I'm not going to any part of the north. That was why that pregnant woman said, there's no vacancy in Lagos, I'll put you in my state, Ogun State. It's in the book.
Close to Lagos.
Close to Lagos. It says 45 minutes. That's why I served in Ogu Radio. And I was the best youth corper in Ogu Radio. People are still alive today.
You kept moving. Your first trip, you remember it, to Nigeria? This man in Nigeria, he was an organizer.
He was an organizer.
It was so smooth.
Very smooth, aide.
And when he left, you ran into trouble.
I ran into big trouble because all the grounds that he covered smoothly became vacant and I became vulnerable.
And because of that, you spent 3 years in Kirikiri?
Yes.
This Nigeria guy was the head of Biafran Student Union.
He was.
Ojukwu somehow knew how to spot these guys.
Yes.
He was a very good network.
He was.
When you landed, the way he ferried you from Lagos, I was just looking at that network. You can be an intelligence officer, you know.
Yes, but Nigeria is not a place where your talent is utilized.
I felt like recruiting you for Mossad or CIA. Because your experience in Biafra, you are not an ordinary citizen.
Ed,
that is how I see you.
Ed, you can say that again.
Because I saw all the movement.
Yes.
At some point, you were in the Hague schooling.
Yes.
You were demonstrating.
Yes. When Ghanian was arrested here, they sent me a front page of Daily Times. Through fax, it arrived. I mobilized African students. Their signatures are there. If the publisher wanted more this thing, I had about 4 more pages of those signatures. Say, Ghani, the lawyer who saved you, I said, yes. I said, we occupied the Nigerian embassy. Lapai was writing letter to me, said, if you have grievances, please, can you come over and we'll talk it over. Don't mobilize students to come and occupy the embassy. What Lapai, and I said it in the book, didn't know was that technically I was not a Nigerian as a student today. I was not.
You were using UN documents?
You were arranged by Chuba Odumegwu Ojukwu.
In Exile?
Oh, yes.
His network kept broadening.
He has all the network. He had all the sympathies. When I came to see your friend, the Number of Bonnie, I didn't come on United Nations passport. I hadn't acquired one then. I came on Sierra Leonean papers.
So you came in Sierra Leonean passport?
Yes.
Arranged by the Ojukwu office?
Yes.
That network?
Yes.
Now let's look at what happened to King Peppo. King Peppo was banished from his kingdom.
Totally.
Because of Ojukwu.
Because of the Biafran war, yes. Ojukwu, yes. If Ojukwu personified it.
You interviewed him when you landed?
I did. That's why I put it there. The editors removed a part of the interview.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe space.
He paid for the love of Biafra.
He paid dearly.
He loved Biafra.
He did.
He followed Ojukwu to Ethiopia in 1968.
Yes.
During that peace meeting.
At Addis Ababa peace talks.
And that was one of his offenses.
That is one of his crimes, in quote.
And he was dealt with.
They dealt with him, and he died miserably.
Sad. When you met him in Aba, what was he looking like?
He was looking frail.
He was sick.
He was looking sickly. I almost started crying because I used to see him on television. Robust, healthy. He was now almost a skeleton. That's it, that photograph. He called the photographer. And when I gave him what Emeka gave me to give to him, he started crying.
Kings also cry.
Yes, kings also cry.
But his son is the king now.
Yes, the son is a king now.
And it was J.T. Spiff that banished him from Rivers.
Totally banished him.
Was
supported from Lagos.
The orders of Gowon.
Yes, of course. He couldn't have done it all alone. And you begin to ask yourself, Aide, what was this man's offense? What crime did he commit?
He had sympathy for Biafra.
He had sympathy for Biafra. He accompanied the leader of Biafra to Addis Ababa for peace talks. Is that an offense? Did he go to buy arms? Did he go to buy bombs? Did he go to recruit pilots? That aspect turns me emotional. How that man was diminished.
But by this time, there was no victor, no vanquished.
That was the grammar that they were pushing to the international community. And that was one of the responsibilities of Emeka. To make sure that this no vanquished, no victor, rehabilitation, reconstruction, and all the 3 R's, they were all grammar. You are rehabilitating people and you are giving my father, with all the money he had, with ACB, African Continental Bank, and Melverton Avenue, Aba, you are giving him £20. That he withdrew money during the war. If he didn't withdraw money during the war, how could he have fed his family? And the thing goes round. Chuks Lebunan will give you his own experience from his own father too. Can you give my father £20? He had a lot of money at ACB.
Was Awolowo wrong for that policy? Or is it go on? But Awolowo was the Commissioner of Finance.
No, but the ball rose and remains at the table of Yakubu. When people call that policy was engineered and pushed down the throat of the federal government in February or March 1970 by Chief Obafemi Awolowo, it doesn't make any sense to me. The ball stopped on his table.
You met people, but you could not meet Akanu Ibiam.
Yes.
Why did Ojukwu have message for Akanu Ibiam?
He was the governor of Eastern Region. He was a man who had renounced his British knighthood. Said no person should call me Dr. Francis Ibiam anymore. He changed to Dr. Akanu Ibiam. A great man. A great man. He was in touch with Emeka through Emeka in Nigeria. I was to reinforce something which he wanted me to do personally. But when I arrived Uwana, that's his village in Afibo, They say he just left. This security man asked him, I said, I cannot go without seeing this man. Can you give me a telephone number in Enugu? I'm going back to Enugu. He refused. So I didn't get to see him. But I met another stalwart, the Bishop of Poetic, pre-war.
Were there countries funding Ojukwu in exile?
Funding in the sense of eating food and putting food on the table and paying school fees?
Because while I was reading your book,
yes,
I saw the movement, the networking, the hotel accommodation, and I kept calculating. So this is huge budget. Who is funding this movement? I kept asking myself. I said I was going to ask you. Outside Ojukwu being a businessman, because the budget was huge. You could see the movement. You fly.
Bringing Ghanaian editors.
Everybody, even coming into Nigeria.
Yes.
That budget was huge. Were there countries funding Ojukwu?
Emeka was funding himself.
Was funding himself.
Yes.
His businesses were doing so well.
His businesses were doing very well. Seresi was doing well. Phoenix African was doing well. Dow was doing well.
Yes, at some point, you met your Waterloo. You sneaked into Nigeria. So by this time, you were preparing to go study in Germany.
West Germany.
And on your way to Frankfurt, after you had come to do your networking in Nigeria, by this time Emeka was gone. Emeka in Nigeria was out of the country.
Exactly.
You've done your work, and at the airport, the Nigerian authorities arrested you. How did you feel at that moment when you were called to step aside?
Okay, I was heading to Fort Zion. Emeka Ojukwu had arranged for further studies for me there. It was at the airport that I checked in my luggage, and one young man, I would say, I still remember him, about 40 years ago, but I still remember him. A little on the short side. Came and said, excuse me, are you Mr. K.B. Esinulo? I said, yes. Have you checked in your luggage? I said, yes. Please come and show me your luggage. It didn't occur to me that it was security. So I said, that box and that small bag, he extracted them. So when he extracted them, he said, I will take you somewhere. Now I asked him, what's the problem? He said, I will tell you what the problem is. That was how the trip was aborted. So from there to Moloney Street, then police headquarters. From police headquarters to Kirikiri. No, to Awolowo. Awolowo to Kirikiri.
What was your offense?
It's in the book. That I, at that age, was in charge of all the anti-Gowon propaganda abroad.
Was it not true?
I wasn't, no.
But Ojukwu was in charge.
Emeka was in charge, but...
you had public relation companies working for the Ojukwu network in Switzerland. You stated that in the
yes.
book. And in
Mark Press.
Press.
Worked for Biafra throughout. That was why our story was better heard outside than Yakubu Gowon's.
And they kept working for Ojukwu in exile.
Yes, up to a point, because the contract had not been elongated, but it hadn't expired.
And you are Ojukwu's man.
Yes.
Coming into Nigeria at different times to bring in news and take out news. Is that not true?
To accuse me of being in charge of anti-Gowon propaganda abroad was making me larger than I was. There were organizations that didn't like the collapse of Biafra, and therefore was working against Gowon and his regime. Luckily, by this time, the unpopularity of the man has started growing, even within his own military. Emeka was monitoring events from Yamoussoukro, that the man was not doing well, that the Nigerian economy was getting down. I hope it is now that it is really down, that this thing is getting down. And I don't know why they were thinking that Emeka in Nigeria and Kanayo Esinulo were the only people in charge of the anti-Gowon propaganda abroad.
But you knew you were a prominent link ferrying Ojukwu messages into Nigeria and taking messages out. Even in Ghana, you were critical to the organization of Ojukwu messages. The Nigerian authority was not wrong, don't you think so?
Yeah.
You wrote that. Look
Yes.
at the book we are talking about. Look, this is a book you should read.
Thank you very much.
It's a book you should read to understand why I am insisting that Kanayo Esinulo knew a lot. Perhaps you need to write another book. To get this book, go on udarabooks.com. You'll find this book on udarabooks.com. You can also order through our WhatsApp numbers. The numbers are on the screen. I am telling you, this is the book of 2024.
Thank you very much.
A lot have been written here. So they got you. The Nigerian authorities got their man.
They were very happy. You can see it on their faces.
Because
they were talking in suppressed tone.
You know, before I got to that point in the book, the suspense, I kept saying, would they catch him? I said, they will catch him. Oh. The way he's sneaking in and sneaking out. You know, so when we got to that airport, I kept waiting for them to catch you. Instead, I said, man, I was not saying if they didn't get him, that means the Nigerian intelligence network is poor.
Yes.
Because the way you were coming in,
and going
out. And I must say that, anyway, so from the airport
to Moloni Street,
from that street,
police headquarters,
to Kirikiri,
you
spent 3 years.
3 torturous years.
What happened in Kirikiri?
Well, they put me in if you like, a room, solitary confinement. You can't see me. My dad came, sent a lot of his brothers and extended family. They didn't see me. It was in one of my uncle's trip that somebody referred him to Chief Gani Fawahimi. Took him to his chambers, then at Surulere, and narrated what happened. My uncle didn't deny that I wasn't with Ojukwu in exile. He didn't. But he said there is nothing this young man did that has offended the law. I'm not a lawyer, but let Gani handle it. Gani gave money to my uncle to enter Chidebere. Now it is the young motors and all. These ones are young. Chidebere then. Gani gave my uncle money to go back to the east. Leave everything for me. Took him to his chambers, he made some statements, signed some papers, that's all. Gani took it. It was Gani that forced them to take me to Ibobi Hospital. Reluctantly. I was limping. It's in the book. I was limping. I couldn't walk straight. Heavy arthritis. Alhaji Kamsalem refused to take me to hospital. Gani pressured. I was taken. Dr. Ishola Abudu, professor then, handled my case. Gani went to court and said, Abudu, come and tell us what you are curing this young man of. He issued a statement. Gani took it to court. It's in the Daily Times publication. Produced, detained, newsman.
Ghani was the arrowhead in the struggle.
He was the arrowhead. That was why when I saw him lying in state at his residence at Antony, dead, I don't know who came for that burial that didn't know that somebody was not just crying, but mourning. I couldn't believe that Ghani is lying in a box.
You dedicated this book.
I dedicated the whole book. Even if I'm going to write a second one, I'm going to dedicate it to Ghani Fawemi. His type is rare. Very uncommon man.
He didn't think you were an Igbo man.
No. That's why when some people talk about tribalism, Igbo do this, Hausa do this, I keep laughing. My best friends are Yorubas.
Even in your book, you know, it struck me, and I want to read. I want to read from your book. You said, as I pointed out earlier on,
yes,
the real battle for my release from detention,
yes,
began with the late Ghani Fawemi in full command.
In full command.
Amnesty International had already deployed its global network to devastating effects on the vicious Gowon regime.
Exactly.
The growing notoriety of the regime provided Amnesty International and other bodies, including the international media, the moral high ground for the effective prosecution of the case for my freedom. General Ojukwu was pushing from Côte d'Ivoire,
yes,
and making use of all his diplomatic contacts.
Exactly.
But Ghani Fawemi was the commander-in-chief in the struggle for my release.
May so rest in peace.
One can now see clearly why I detest and condemn tribalism and any form of ethno-sectionalism in all ramifications and shapes.
Hey, you got it.
It is most unfortunate that the twin vices have taken solid roots in our society today.
Yes.
Just take a look at the persons, all critical intellectuals and professionals that assembled themselves without any financial prompting or payment or inducement in my defense, not minding, as it were, the obvious risk that the brutal Lagos regime was capable of unleashing on them.
Exactly.
You mentioned their names. Ghani Fawemi.
Yes.
Olu
Onogorowa.
Tai Solarin.
Tai.
Wole Soyinka.
That's it.
All Yoruba men.
All Yoruba people. I sent a copy to Professor Wole Soyinka through Yemi Ogumbi.
They fought for you.
He did. All of them.
You came to Nigeria, you went to Tai Solarin.
Yes.
On many occasions, Ojukwu sent you to sort out Wole Soyinka.
Yes.
At some point, Soyinka had to fly to Abidjan.
Yes.
To meet Ojukwu.
Yes.
Soyinka loved Biafra, right?
I can say that 10 times. He didn't. See, Wole was involved in getting Nigeria to be better. I think so. He didn't like the pogrom. He didn't like and remember that he had very good friends, Chris Okibo, Chino Achebe. He had very good friends in the East. So what is Yakubu Gowon trying to put him in prison till 1969, October? For doing what?
For going to Igbo land.
For going to Igbo land to facilitate peace. To ask why we are abandoning Aburi. That was his offense. Like the Amayinama of Bonny. People seeking for peace, Yakubu Gowon put. So when people begin to praise Yakubu Gowon, he's a man of peace. Man of peace, and the thing that happened in Asaba happened. Emeka still remembered the killings in Asaba.
The Asaba massacre?
The Asaba massacre was massive. Like the Calabar massacre. People don't talk about Calabar when they entered Calabar. When they entered Calabar, they massacred as many people as they did in Asaba. But why the Asabaon was, Asabaon happened before the glare of the world press. It killed a lot of people in Calabar.
Before I miss this point.
Yes.
Because in this book, at some point, when Ojukwu knew that Murtala Mohammed had been killed.
Yes.
In the Dinka coup.
Yes.
Let me not misinterpret you. Was Ojukwu happy?
No, what he told me, I don't know whether I captured it in this book, was poetic justice. That time I didn't get the meaning, but it was later. He said poetic justice.
Did he smile when he said that? Remember, Taiwo was also killed.
Let me tell you, yeah, that I was coming to that. In that coup aid, 2 principals were killed. Murtala Mohammed and Taiwo Ibrahim. These were the 2 people who commanded the killings in Asaba.
And Ojukwu remembered.
We all remembered.
Because you mentioned that in this book.
We all remembered.
And it sounded like good riddance to bad rubbish.
Why must it be 2 of them? And somebody tells me that there is no God. There is God. Why 2 of them specifically? The killings in Asaba were massive, brutal, wicked, inhuman. Ibrahim, took direct orders from Murtala Mohammed to mow those people down.
Is it connected to Nzogu coming from that area, Okpanam?
He could.
To deal with, Nzogu.
He's from Okpanam.
So he took out Ahmadu Bello.
Oh, yes.
And now we are in Nzogu's territory.
Yes.
Perhaps it's time to...
We have to start revenging. And killed... Oh, my God.
But it was war.
It was war, but what has that got to do with defenseless people? They were not soldiers. Those people killed.
But somehow Biafra took its pound of flesh, the River-Niger crossing. You remember?
Yes.
Biafran soldiers massacred Nigerian soldiers.
Yes.
And many of them were coming from that Asaba end.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
You like it?
Yeah, it was true. Ahmadi was positioned to make sure that they didn't cross the Niger safely, and he deployed his battalion and div, and they fought very well. Did Onitsha fall throughout the war?
It fell, did it?
It fell at the end of the war. There were attempts to enter Onitsha from all angles. From a back.
I thought Murtala Mohammed went round. I entered Onitsha.
He didn't enter Onitsha.
But Onitsha was occupied.
Onitsha was occupied by the Biafran troops.
Throughout the war?
Of course, yes. Did Onitsha fall before January 10? Ahmadi made sure of that. Because their aim was Newi, don't forget.
Ojukwu's town.
Ojukwu's town.
Let's go back to Soyinka.
Wole was our guest. We didn't know how to get to Wole. So when he called me and said, he doesn't call him Wole. Because he doesn't even call him prof. He calls him playwright. He said, I must host playwright Wole Soyinka here. Bring him here. I flew back to Accra. Was asking every newsroom, Ghanaian Graphic, Ghanaian Times, all their magazines, because Wole comes here, they said no. Eventually, I ran into a roadblock. I said no. As if Emeka was monitoring me, he called me, said, come back to Ivory Coast. I said, come back to Côte d'Ivoire. I have not finished the assignment. He said, come back to Côte d'Ivoire. I went back. He said, now I have information. Wole Soyinka will be in Accra next week. His best hotel is Avenida You know Avenida? I say, yes, sir. You know Avenida? I say, Your Excellency, I know Avenida. Vincent Obiano used to take me there. He won't be at Avenida this time. He will be with Rajat Nyuji, a Ugandan friend of his. And the Rajat Nyuji's office was a dark mark house. Catch him there.
He ran the Transition magazine.
He ran a Transition magazine. And I went. That week elapsed. The next week, I went to Dark Mark House, second floor. I met Gladys, beautiful secretary. I said, Gladys, I've been here once. You won't recognize the face, but I came to buy a magazine. I have come on another mission. I hear Wole Soyinka is with your boss. I want to deliver a message. He said, who told me? I said, who told me is not very important. Wole is here. I want to send a message. She gave me a form and I filled. They ushered me in. Even before they offered seat to me, they wanted me. I said, I have come to deliver a message from General Ojukwu. They said, okay, now you can sit down. I sat down. I was able to extract from the playwright. He has this book. The very first week he came out from the printing press, I took to him a GRA, Ikeja. I gave it to Yemi, Ogumbi. Wole knows me, he missed my local flights. He's a rascal. That's what they calls me. And I told Wole that His Excellency would like to see you. He said, Yemo, I say yes. When he said, at your earliest convenience, at your earliest convenience. It's okay. And he came. And you know, Emeka, after meeting with aide for about 3 hours or 3 days, you will never tell a second person what he discussed with aide.
He was that secretive.
That's his life.
Anyway, he's a soldier.
He's a soldier. So when I came back to... I said, Wole came. I hope talks went fine. He said, yes, yes. We were able to arrive at a vast area of consensus. That was his language.
And Wole kept coming.
Oh, yes, sir. They were personal friends.
You know, today, some young persons in Igbo land attack Wole Soyinka for not... They say he doesn't love the Igbo people.
No, they don't know what is happening.
Tell them what is happening. Tell them.
Wole doesn't hate Igbos. Let them come and ask me.
I'm asking now on their behalf.
No. There is no hatred that Wole can ever harbor against Igbos. I'm in a position to tell you.
Because Ojukwu in exile, Wole was always in the picture.
He was his companion. He was his comforter. It doesn't. When Wole comes and says he's living in the next 3 days, and I am living, now lie. You keep him there for 3 weeks.
And before the war, he was a link.
Oh yes. So who says Wole Soyinka? Tomorrow somebody will tell me that Tai Solarin hates the Igbos. How? When the street that leads to his house is Nzogu Road, leading to his personal house. I've been there more than 4 times for meetings.
And they were mostly Yorubas that stood with you when you were in prison.
When we were in exile and after the exile, when Emeka was to come back, those who supported, do you know how much Balabo Ogunsowo spent on my tickets alone?
The editor of the Sunday Times.
Oh, yes. And Emeka was a slave of his column.
But Akwa did not collect money from the Biafran network.
Not one kobo.
And he did all those writings.
Emeka said that I should ask Balabo to give us a budget. Every time he's helping, he's organizing from Ibadan, he's organizing from Oshobo. Let him give us a little budget. We'll be able to meet it. Or does he think we are so poor? As I have explained everything, he won't take. If you give me money now to give to Balabo Gutsobo, he will insult me at his number 3 Remeleku Crescent Misorulere. That's where I met him.
And he was such a good journalist.
Oh, well, someone. You don't see his memos. Kanayo, where are you? We have not talked. What is wrong with you? It's all there. And the publisher, eminent this thing, they omitted about 17 of his memos. There are some he will be abusing me. Kanayo, mustn't you see me as soon as you came back from that trip? We're that close. We're that close. And Emeka not only loved him, he respected him.
So it got to a point, Ojukwu wanted to return home. And resources were deployed. You and Poku began to ferry journalists from Ghana to Abidjan
and back.
To tell the Ojukwu story. Media propaganda at work, right? And you later studied media in The Hague. And let me not forget, you were on your way to Germany to study media when you were arrested. Right? And you got a scholarship to do that.
I've always school of scholarship. Emeka will just make a call.
Tell me about that media campaign.
The media campaign was that we discovered that the Ghanaian media was very, very sympathetic to Biafra. Maybe because Ojukwu and Gowon and the rest of them, Mobolaji Johnson, David Ejo, all of them, met in Ivory. That may have been a soft point for them, soft spot. But their media, which is more vibrant sometimes than our own here, became so deeply sympathetic to Ojukwu. So allow this man to go back now. His father is not a poor man. Let him, he will create more jobs. They are there. Emeka sat me down one day and said, these people are not writing this thing out of sentiment. They know the facts. Bring the editors. And our contact point was Poku. I say, editor, say, only say make I bring all of you now, TBOT, yourself, Emmanuel Barnes, all of you. He said, I can't move these top editors out of the country without telling intelligence. I have to go and tell them more. I said, what is intelligence? He said, no, you can't move this level of people out of the country at the same time to a destination without telling intelligence. So he went and briefed the head of the intelligence that Ojukwu wants to say, oh, why not? Is he coming to overthrow the Ghanaian government? So Emeka arranged these funds, gave me the fund. I bought all the tickets. And we moved in the same aircraft. And of course, Emeka, the Ivorian chap, wonderful boy, married to a Ghanaian, moved us, all of us, to Hotel du Golf. Hotel du Golf was constructed by Seresi, Emeka's company. Fantastic hotel. Moved all of them. Emeka said, where is Kanayo? Come to the office. Let's conspire before you bring these people to my office tomorrow morning. And I went there and we conspired. What they will eat, their welfare, their public relations. You know, we had people whose business was to make sure that our guests are happy. That they're happy, if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
So that's their job, you know. So, and they enjoyed their stay. They did. They enjoyed their stay.
They enjoyed Ojukwu?
They enjoyed his rhetorics. They enjoyed his etiquette.
You know, he's a smooth talker.
He's brilliant. People say his English is They don't know that his French at a point became better than his English, yet his English was superb. His French was...
And he was a man of history.
Oh, he was not sent to London by his father to read history. He was sent to go and read law because of the nature of the properties his father was acquiring. Emeka went there and read history.
In exile, he was reading newspapers from all over the world.
He reads like... Emeka can finish this book in 2 days.
He was a voracious reader.
He was a voracious reader. 8. You can say that again.
And readers are leaders.
He was a voracious reader.
And when that media campaign started,
in Accra,
it was clear Ojukwu was coming home.
Yes. But he wasn't coming home to Ghana. He's coming home to Nigeria. So we needed to ignite the fire in Nigeria.
So at that point, you were in Nigeria by 1980.
Emeka had pushed me. I entered Nigeria December 29, 1979. Shehu Shagari had taken over power.
And the negotiation began.
The Chuba Okadigbo played a critical role. Now, let me tell you something that people don't know. And I think I tried to capture it in the book. Emeka sat down with Emeka and I. And he asked, if I must go home, the Ghanaians are putting fire. Yes. If I must go home, Kanayo must go home first. Emeka said they will arrest him again, or jokingly. He said no. There's a democratic dispensation there now. It's not a military regime. So I came here 29th December. 29th December or 24th December 1979. Shehu Shagari was already in power for about 3 months. I entered. But at that particular meeting, Emeka had spotted one man they called Chuba Okadigbo, who visited him in Umuahia during the war as a student in US with George Obiozo. So Emeka said, whatever we are doing for my homecoming, the target must be is a political advisor. It was then that he defined for us the scope, the parameters of that office. So
Chuba Okadigbo was the political advisor to Shagari.
The president of the republic. So he told me, that is your target. But I must do youth service. So he was patient for me to finish youth service in Ogun State. As soon as I finished, joined NTA, he said, now target him.
Before you joined NTA, you worked with a New Breed magazine.
Yes.
For just 3 months.
I ran away.
You ran away because of the temper of the editor.
Yes.
Sorry about
that. You can't work with Chris. So Emeka heard that I had resigned. He was so angry because that was the only magazine that had the courage, editorial courage, to publish him when he was in exile.
You went to NTA. Through the powers of Olu Onogorua.
Olu put pressure. Hero put pressure. And I came in.
So from NTA, you began to operate.
I began to operate, and you don't just go to political advisor to the president, I had to contrive a scenario that would be acceptable to our boss, Victor Folivi. I told Folivi that I want to interview the political advisor to the president. I'm in the newsroom. I'm a newsroom staff. He told me that before you go to interview him, can I have the questions you want to? In less than 20 minutes, I finished the question. I arranged the questions, took it to the secretary. They typed it. I went upstairs, left it. He called me. Said, okay. He called Alhaji Salam Salahuddin. said, Salaudin, you accompany him to State House tomorrow to interview the political advisor. And that's how I was meeting Chuba for the first time in my life.
And when you got to that office, you left your crew outside?
Yes.
And went for your own personal mission?
Yes, because that was the prime motive of the interview in the first place.
And when you introduced yourself to Chuba,
he wasn't ready to listen to me. He wasn't giving me attention. He thought I was a mole.
Until Obiozor came in.
God is wonderful. I wrote it in the book, The Providence. Any person who calls me Kisco knew me in secondary school at Awo Mama. So when he came, say, Kisco, what are you doing here? I said, I have a message from General, and our General. He said, Emeka? I said, yes, sir. But Chuba is not giving me attention. He's not giving me any. It wasn't even sitting down. He just said, there's a nickname he calls Chuba. If there's any person in this country now that can speak for Emeka Ojukwu, now, is this young man. It was then that Chuba started listening to me. So, in 3 minutes, George went back to his office because they all work in the presidency. He said, now, what's the message? I told him that he says he wants to talk to you. And that if you don't mind, both of us can go to Ivory Coast. Would you like to talk to him now? He said, yes. I wrote the number. I called his secretary. The secretary came upstairs and put us on. Sir, je parle avec mon général. Can I speak to my general? That's his secretary, an Israeli, a Jew. He hooked us on.
His Ojukwu secretary was a Jew?
Yes. He's an Israeli.
An Israeli?
Yes.
She must have been an intelligence officer.
We don't know. He would tell you that. So he hooked us on, and Emeka was KBC Abo. That's the first sentence, KBC. Where are you calling me from? See, when you say, I'm about from Chuba Okadigbo's office. Let me talk to that rascal.
He called Chuba a rascal?
Yes. So, the call was transferred to his desk. I was talking to a very mighty office. Then they talked for a long time. That was the beginning of my trip to Côte d'Ivoire with him.
With Chuba?
Chuba. But Chuba insisted he won't come alone, that he will come with George Obiozor. So 3 of us, they avoided me.
They didn't take the same plane with you?
No. Because they knew, they're in government. They know that they are monitoring me. I knew security was monitoring me at that time.
But you were no threat at that time?
No, I was no longer a threat.
It was a friendly government?
It was a friendly government, and the American and Nigerian strategist was not there. Emeka was not there. Emeka was at Nsukka. He had finished his PhD in America, come back and was teaching.
You had to sacrifice your own PhD?
Oh, yes.
To make sure you could return home?
Oh, yes. He didn't want me to go beyond the master's degree at The Hague. I could have been at the University of Lund.
In Sweden?
In Sweden. Wole Soyinka wrote a letter to NIIA, Bolaji Akinyemi, to employ me, that I could have been in Sweden.
So what was the trip to Abidjan like?
With Chuba,
yeah.
He received him like a king. I went on Air Afrique, then went on Nigeria Airways. So I arrived first. Emeka said, where are our visitors? If we go to office without our visitors, Emeka will be mad at us. So I said, no, they are coming. If they are not coming, I could have told you on phone. They are coming. But they are coming on another flight. 1.5 hours or so, they landed. I said, those are the people, when they do like this, go and get them.
They wore agbada.
They wore agbada. And they landed. And we put them in vehicle straight. Emeka was already waiting at home.
And it was a good discussion.
Oh, yes, I sat in.
At that point, Chuba Okadigbo took it as a mission.
He took it as a project and a mission.
He introduced you to Dr. Tahir.
Introduced me to Dr. Tahir.
And even the Minister of Works.
No, he was then the chairman of NITEL.
Now I'm talking about the Minister of Work. What's his name?
Victor Massey.
Yeah.
Victor was there, was in the project line for Emeka's coming. And don't forget that Victor was a captain with Biafra Army Engineers. So he was very sympathetic, but he didn't want to be right there at the forefront. He said, have you talked to Tahir? I said, we are just coming out of his hotel. That's not a hotel, that's a massive, he was in a suite of about 4 or 5 rooms.
Dr. Tahir liked discussion.
Ooh, he's an intellectual.
He kept talking.
He kept talking. We told him we have an appointment. We have an appointment with Mass. We had stood up. He will bring the shortcomings of apartheid regime in South Africa and how they were reconstructing agriculture there.
He was knowledgeable.
He's an academic.
And together they ensured the return of Ojukwu to Nigeria.
He assured me and Vincent that Emeka was coming home.
He was a member of the inner circle of the Shagari government.
He was the inner circle of Shagari regime. So Chuba knew why he nominated him.
At some point, Ojukwu had a meeting with Shinkafi in London.
Yes.
He was the head of Nigeria's intelligence security.
Yes. Emeka didn't tell us. Me and Vincent and Emeka.
Until he came back from the trip.
Until he came back.
That is the mark of a general.
Yes. He didn't tell us.
Now, you needed to sort out Tai Solarin.
Yes.
Tell me about that man.
Tai visited me. God created human beings. Tai visited me at number 18 Oluwalumi Street, Ikeja. I was then living in room and parlor with my wife. I just finished youth service. And we kept talking. So when Emeka insisted that I cannot come home without telling the sage, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, I carried this message to Balabo Gunsowa. I said, Emeka said that I should go and talk to Tai Solarin. We went to Tai Solarin, and I told Tai that Emeka had a message for Chief Obafemi Awolowo, the UPN leader. He said, what's the nature of the message? I said, when we go there, you sit into the meeting and I will deliver it. He said, it can't be today. We should come back next week. He was to arrange. Ed, he arranged. The meeting was to be held next week. We arrived on time. Vin drove. Vin is here. Vin is here. Vin drove in, we drove in Vin's car. Type said we should park our car. We parked our car and we moved into his own car. It's a little dark yellow. I don't know how to do it. It's a Range Rover. We drove to Awolowo's place.
In Ikene?
In Ikene. We are the reception, the door of that reception. What they wrote there was
Situation room?
Situation room. I copied it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. Tai was not coming out of the room. When he came, he made us sign that we should go. I said, Doc, Na me first talk because Vin couldn't recover. Are we not seeing the chief again? He said, no, I will tell you people, I will tell you. It was in the car that he said that after narrating our mission and who sent us, that the chief said, I have no attitude.
I don't have an attitude yet.
I don't have an attitude yet.
That's what Awolowo said to Tai.
To Tai, he didn't tell us directly.
And Tai relayed the message.
To us, and we relayed it to Emeka.
You know, I've been thinking, I don't have an attitude yet. What does it mean?
To us, it was meaningless. To Emeka, it was meaningless. But Emeka is not a man you can discourage easily. He told us to, don't let that hamper your efforts. Concentrate on other people.
Why didn't you go through Bolakpo Ogunsowo? He was an Awolowo man.
Yes, he was an Awo person, but Bolakpo said Tai will take us.
And Tai did.
And Tai did.
Because Awolowo did not see you.
But he never physically saw.
And you were looking forward to seeing Awo.
I was enthusiastic to see that historic figure. I've always liked him. I'll tell you something. When I came back to Nigeria in 1979, of course, you go to the village to get your Wole Soyinka calls it there's something Wole calls it. I went to the village to get blessing from my dad. It was in the process of going to the village that I asked myself, I must ask Papa this question. I said, Papa, in this 1979 election you people just held, whom did you vote for? He said, who else will I vote for except my master Zik? He has been voting for Zik since 1940 something. The man didn't even allow me to land. See, Papa, if I were here, I would vote for Awo. Awo that gave him 20 pounds. Awo that did this. Awo that did. See, but the man saw free education, free health, and integrated rural development. 3 policies that could have changed the format of this country. Papa Simgano Ruala. When I go school, we no go school. I voted for my master. I've been voting for him since 1943. My father told me. So those stereotypes, those old people, you can't talk them out of their thinking.
If you had the opportunity to have voted in that election, who would you have voted for?
Awo, UPN.
Would have voted for Awo?
Yes.
But some Igbo said he betrayed Biafra during the war.
That was during the war, but we are talking about UPN. What does it represent?
Did he betray Biafra?
Emeka was saying that he thought he would be more sympathetic than he was.
That was all.
He will end the sentence there.
But he didn't break any agreement.
No.
There was no agreement.
No.
Because after that meeting in the East...
He said he never saw him when he came out of Calabar prison. That's what he told me. And Emeka doesn't exaggerate. He doesn't tell us.
So there was no agreement. Awo did not promise that. If Ojukwu...
He said when he came to government house in Enugu, the person who saw him officially on his behalf was Salui.
Mbanefo, who released Awolowo from prison in Calabar? Was it Gowon or Ojukwu?
No, it's Yakubu Go. It's a federal government something.
But by this time...
But Emeka had sent vehicle to convey him from Calabar to Enugu. He sent a vehicle to give him the honor.
Did Ojukwu confirm to you at any time that the 5 majors, the Nzogu coups, that they planned to hand over to Awolowo?
He did.
Did Ojukwu confirm that to you?
He didn't confirm to me, but he was talking to Ghanaian journalists.
And he said that?
And he said that.
That what?
Yes.
That
the 5 majors who carried out the January 15 coup, 1966, their main primary objective was to release him from Calabar prison and make him the prime minister. Emeka told us, told the Ghanaian journalists.
And you were there listening?
I brought them. I'm their chief host. I'm their chief host.
So you loved Awo?
Oh, yes.
And you really wanted to see him?
That trip that could have afforded me the opportunity, a rare opportunity, of shaking hands with the hero of my political conscience was denied me by Tai. Tai said
was it Tai that denied you, or Awo didn't want to see you?
He didn't want to see us. We were two.
Perhaps for strategic reasons.
I think so, Ed. I think you are right.
Okay.
He didn't want to see us. We didn't enter the room. We were at the reception where there were 3 or 4 other people.
And his man, Bolakpo Ogunsowo, was working for you guys.
24/7.
So Awo wanted Ojukwu to return.
He wanted him to return.
And he wanted him to join his party.
If he didn't want him to return, he couldn't have facilitated Balabo Ogunsowo's efforts. As I go to Balabo, I said, Onyisi wants me to come to Abidjan tomorrow. I'm leaving tomorrow. He opened his drawer. How much was the trip to Abidjan? That I look at the tickets. I still have the tickets. 27 naira. 31 naira. And you are in Abidjan. Balabo will say, this is a return thing. I said, no, Emeka. He said, no, just put this one. When you are coming, buy something for your wife.
So certainly that money was coming from somewhere.
Oh,
look, Awolowo had a broad network too.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I know Ogunsowo was an Awo man.
He was not only an Awo man, he was a devotee of Awoism. He doesn't hide it.
He wrote a book, Awo. Now, it was clear Ojukwu was coming home.
Yes.
And it dawned on Awo that the man is coming home.
Yes.
Awo wanted Ojukwu in his party. Unity Party of Nigeria.
But he didn't make that request directly to him or through us.
To who?
I think they were working surreptitiously through Balabo.
Because you told Okadigbo what was going on.
Yes. Chuba wanted to know our relationship with J.J. Rawlings. He said, if I don't tell him, the intelligence will know. So you better brief me. J.J. Rawlings in Ghana. Chuba wanted to know our relationship with Balabo Ogunsowo, Tai Solarin. I cleared with Iko Ononako.
The man with UAC.
The UAC man, I cleared with him, said, be plain, just come and play. We have nothing to hide.
He lived in Ikoyi.
14, Bordelon.
His house was like the meeting point.
Is our secretariat, more or less. The wife was almost living in the boys' quarters. We drove her away.
Where is he?
He died.
Oh.
Ike died.
So
if I'm coming to aid in Ibadan, I don't need to take money from Ojukwu. I go to Ike Ononaka, say, I'm visiting Ibadan to see aid. That Onyisi has a message for aid, which I want to convey personally. How much does it, how long are you staying? Are you coming the same day? I said, no, I've stayed 2 days. You give me money for hotel for 2 days. You give me. I wrote it down. Emeka will refund me in whatever currency, I don't know. That's the arrangement. But I think when he died, and I was discussing with Madam, I think he was paying, was it Madam? Somebody told me that he was paying him through his Swiss account.
So at some point, when you mentioned to Ojukwu that perhaps Awolowo was interested in him joining the party, he now used the same word that I will use.
Sarcastically.
I don't have an attitude yet.
Yes.
Sarcastically.
Sarcastically. And Emeka is good at such things.
Was it like, what is good for the goose?
I won't say that. He said, well, I needed him at a point, and you brought me a message that this was what he said. This is my own attitude too. But I tell you, he had deep respect for him. You remember he was the person who said, that's the best president
Nigeria never had.
That sentence was deep and deeper than what people would ever think.
He respected our word.
He did. Omadato, a man of ideas. He said that Awo was deep.
He was deeper than the rest.
Oh, yes, the contemporaries. Oh, yes.
And yet they didn't allow him to govern.
They didn't allow him to. He was the best president Nigeria never had. Emeka doesn't just throw words about. Emeka does not use words recklessly, no.
Ojukwu's mother, that trip to see Ekweme, the vice president. Tell me about his mother.
We didn't pass through Chuba. We jumped over his head.
Because at that time, Ekweme and Chuba were not in good terms?
We are not in good terms. I don't even think they were in speaking terms. We were warned. We didn't know. We are not MPN people. We are not in the inner caucus. But we were warned. I know what Mercy told us. So we jumped over his head.
You went to see Ekweme? Tell me about Ojukwu's mother.
Nice woman. A mother. He told me in Igbo that all he's praying for is for Emeka to come home before these eyes close permanently.
And he also told Ekweme that?
He told, I was sitting into the meeting.
How did Ekweme feel?
You can see he was touched. He didn't go to work that day, he was home. But he managed to get his walking stick and escorted Mama to the car. That car was bought about 2 weeks. That was when brand new car was around 14,000 something. We bought it from SCOA. I don't even know whether the company is still around. We bought it from SCOA. Bernard and Major Nwadiegwu, my uncle, we bought it. So immediately I saw the vehicle coming and beaming light, I knew Bernard had seen me. And they parked.
What was the relationship between Ojukwu and his mother?
Oh, just like relationship between Aide and the mother. It was his son, was her son.
Where was she during the war?
In the east, around the Zog.
She was home.
Old. But not very old during the war. It was in Boake that age started descending on her.
Even while she was in the car waiting to see Ekweme?
Her legs started swelling. She told me.
Age?
2 hours we waited for to be cleared by Mbadiniju.
Mbadiniju was Ekweme's PA.
PA?
He later became the governor of Anambra State.
Yes. We waited and waited and waited. I had to go back to the security. I said, the old lady in the car cannot sit down one place for a long period. Please, can you people facilitate so that you can go and see the VP? So at the end of the day, one man came and spoke with them. When he went by, the chief security, who is that man? He said, that is the PA to the vice president. His name is Mbadiniju. I said, okay. After about a few minutes, they called us and we went. That visit was strategic. I think it helped to facilitate. So while Chuba was pushing from here,
Dr. Tahi?
Dr. Tahi was, Victor Matzo was pushing. Even Dr. Professor George Obiozo, there was no way MPN could have said no. The push was well organized.
And there was a second meeting between Ojukwu and Umaru Shinkafi?
Oh, yes.
And that meeting sealed it?
After that, I was trying to find out from America what the meeting was all about. The man, they had a waste time. Yes, no, it's routine.
I think when did he?
Yeah, that's how it is done.
He was the head of the Nigeria Security Organization, NSO.
They had to meet. There was no way America could have come without his meeting the head of security.
We've not mentioned one man. Obinwa Nnaji. You know, Bolakpo Oguso was in charge of the Ibadan Lagos Axis Press. Yes. Nnaji was for the East.
About 11 months ago, I was there when he was put in the ground. We lost Obinwa. Obinwa fought throughout the war and rose to be a captain. Obinwa was fighting at Mbrichi because he was fond of that story. Owerri Port Harcourt axis. He said he looked backward to see his soldiers that were accompanying him for a battle that was scheduled for